Hey, how are you? I'm Slice of Otaku, and chapter 247 of My Hero Academia was an interesting one. It wasn't too crazy, it didn't get too hectic, but it really set up what we can expect from the remainder of the arc. And for starters, we started out with Shoto's big sister. And in a previous video, I thought it was his mom, but that was a simple mistake, and it turns out to be his sister. Now, I'm not sure why she's here, or what she's looking at, or what's going on, but it is a bit ominous that we got two appearances from her, and she's not a very prevalent character in the story, so where we'll end up seeing her later on, I'm excited to see. But the fact that this is an arc showcasing Shoto and Endeavor, it's probably the best time for her to appear. And I mean, we already got a Dabi appearance earlier on in the arc, and I don't know how I feel about the whole Dabi situation anymore. I don't really care. Hopefully we get more on him, but at this point, after seeing the whole Villain Academia thing, I don't really care. But anyways, getting back on track, Deku is questioned by Endeavor, and so is Bakugo, as to what their intentions for being at this agency are. And Deku has intentions of getting better control over his quirk. He wants to be a better combatant and truly be able to utilize all of his abilities, including this new power of his, the Black Whip. Now, in particular, he is searching for a way to maintain his momentum and movement while also being able to go all out. He's found a way to offset the dangers of his quirk and not harm himself, but he still has to limit himself, and he doesn't want to do that anymore. He wants to be able to do his shoot style, do all his cool new moves and movement styles, while also being a serious threat on the battlefield. And that's really good to see that that's what he's going for. He also wants to incorporate this new power, and he kind of has a semblance of an idea on how to do that, but he's only at 15% when he needs 20. So he has a lot of room for improvement, but it's really interesting that he's a character that knows exactly what he needs to improve on. And I like to see that because at the beginning of the series, he was a character that really studied other heroes and really was just jotting down notes even when it wouldn't apply to him. So he has an understanding of how several different types of powers are or should go and operate. And for a while, it didn't feel like he was really applying that knowledge. He was studying, but we didn't get to see him actually use that information. And now it seems like he has a clear idea, he just doesn't know how to get there. And Endeavor is hopefully the one who's going to put him in situations where he'll be able to figure it out, because he is a smart kid and he should be able to figure it out on his own if placed in the right environment. And that's what Gran Torino did in his case. He kind of just let him do his thing, beat him up a bit, let him do his thing, and I think we're going to get a little bit more of that. Now, funny enough, Deku actually has a new move in development named Air Force. And I found the name of this to be really interesting because it's sort of a homage to All Might in a sense, because of the American roots, you know, Air Force One. So for Deku to implement that in a new technique of his is really nice to see. Now, for a lot of us, when we hear the term Air Force, we may think of Air Force One with the planes and all that, but if you're interested in shoes, you may think of Air Force Ones, the Nikes. And for Deku to kick around and have a new move called Air Force is so cool. And the fact that he's trying to incorporate the Black Whip makes it like Air Force One's just the black versions, and you know what those mean. Now, as for how this move will operate in battle, it's apparently like some sort of jet propulsion move where he's kicking the air and propelling it, which is something we've seen from All Might in the past, so to once again see another homage is cool. It's a little bit weird because he's still copying All Might in a sense, but he is putting his own little spin on it, so it's nice to see. And I mean, I guess All Might is that ceiling. He's there to present us what we can expect from Deku. A little bit different, but for the most part, the same. Now, to be fair, technically Deku can already do this, but there's a lot of thought required for him to do this, and concentration and thinking, which isn't always readily available in the heat of battle. So he's trying to figure out how to just do that all the time. And you know, based on how he reacted, Endeavor's seeming like an actually good mentor. I mean, he beat the shit out of his son, but I guess he had standards and expectations for his son. He made him for a reason. But for other characters and other heroes, I guess, fledgling heroes, he's actually pretty good at teaching them how to do what they gotta do. It seems like the people who work at his agency don't know how shitty he can be, at least as a father, so they actually have respect for him and such. And the hero world sees him as someone who's, he's not smiley like All Might, but he gets the job done, so they respect him, and he's #1 now. But what really stood out to me was the fact that Endeavor accepted Deku as someone who suffered from their quirk as well. And that's a little weird because, his quirk has gotten him this far. He has such a powerful quirk, and he's someone who was obsessed with fusing his fire quirk with an ice quirk to make Todoroki, or someone like Todoroki. So for him to treat quirks like a sort of problem or plague is really, really perplexing. And I mean, it's been established, or it can be established, that several characters throughout the story, or all of them to be fair, are influenced by their quirks. Bakugo is just so abrasive and sudden and aggressive because of his explosions and, so forth and so on. So if you apply that sort of logic to Endeavor, it's sort of like maybe his flames consumed him before he could really perceive what he was doing. It took over him, and he was just all consuming, and he ended up consuming his family and doing irreparable damage to them, scarring them even. And from that angle, I guess you could say he was a victim to his quirk, but I don't really want to call Endeavor a victim. After all that he's done, I don't think we should consider him a victim, and I'm curious how Horikoshi is going to go about handling Endeavor. Is this a redemption arc for him? Are we going to have a reason to root for him, or say, hey, maybe he's not so bad? I don't know. It's a little weird considering all that he's done, but hopefully something interesting happens. I don't know. I want to give him a chance, and I think that he's looking for redemption. He's looking for a reason to be forgiven, but he wants it a little too easy. So hopefully it's a difficult task for him. In the case of Bakugo, Bakugo is looking for his limitations. He's searching for what his quirk can't do. Now, Bakugo is a very cocky man. Like, his entire life, he has believed himself to be the best. The best because his quirk is the best. His quirk has been his whole persona. It's his entire identity. So at this point, he's recognized that his quirk can't do everything for him. There is a level of strength that his quirk cannot fulfill for him. He has to find it on his own. So he's looking for that limitation so he can get better and become more powerful and be who he wants to be. There's an upper level of strength and heroism that he doesn't understand, and he wants to understand that. And I think that Endeavor and Bakugo are very similar characters in very similar predicaments right now at this point in the story. So Endeavor doesn't have everything figured out, obviously, in terms of what it means to be a hero. He wants to be the strongest, or at least that was his goal back when All Might was operating. But he's trying to figure it out himself. So I think this is the perfect time for Bakugo to be there and just learn. And I think they can learn off of each other and figure things out and get more powerful, I guess. Now, after Deku and Bakugo establish their intentions with this agency, Endeavor's done. He's walking off. But Shoto makes sure to establish to his dad that he's about the business. He is here for himself. Yes, he is doing what Endeavor wanted him to do and always wanted him to do, but he is doing it for himself. He's not doing it to please Endeavor. He is doing it to become a better hero, and he learned how to do that at UA. He learned how to be a better person and not to be as evil and vindictive as his father, or as hateful and, cruel as his father, through his friends and how nice they are and all those experiences he's had. So it's really interesting to see him actually stand up for himself in this regard, and not just like disassociate from his dad and throw it all away like he did back during the sports festival, but to now actually recognize that his goals are his own. And sure, he's going with what his dad wants, but he's using his dad. And Endeavor wasn't ready to hear that. He thought that Shoto was here, ready to welcome him into his heart and accept him, but that is not the case. And once again, it should not be that easy for him, and he needs to learn that. What he did, the things that he did, are not something that can just go away and can be easily forgiven. So it's about time. But from there, our characters are now ready to step into the heat of battle and handle the business. And Endeavor makes it clear that his agency does everything. They do rescue, they do evacuation, they do battle. They are not picky. They make sure to get the job done. Whatever job needs to be done, they do it. And that's exactly what our big three of 1A needs to get done. Endeavor has set a goal for them to catch a villain faster than he can, which is gonna be really hard because this is his area. He knows his turf like the back of his hand, and he's a pretty fast and effective guy, so they're up against the #1 hero. These three students are up against the #1 hero in a speed contest. They are speed running, and there's no better training than that. Now, considering all that's happened in My Villain Academia, we are definitely in store for some crazy power-ups and ability increases from our students. So I want to know how you guys are feeling about this, and if you are excited to see the fruits of their labor and what exactly they'll be doing in particular and who they'll be up against, because going against villains, catching villains, implies that we're going to see some interesting and quirky villains on the horizon. So I'm ready, and hopefully you are too. If you enjoyed the video and want to become a part of the conversation, let us know what you thought about this chapter in the comments and how you're feeling about all this in general. Thank you all so much for watching, and have an awesome day. I love you.